Hello Muffins! Today is a little look at the Frances Ha opening scene. This is for our American film topic for A-level film studies, and we're looking at the opening scene. We're going to be thinking as well about spectatorship, ideology, and this idea that this is our indie film example. So Selma is our mainstream example, and this is our indie film example. So we've spoken about how Selma is classified as a mainstream film for the purposes of this unit, but it actually demonstrates some like anti-authoritarian messages, and the voice of the film is not one that we would normally see within our mainstream Hollywood. This is an indie film, and we actually have a little switcheroo here as well. So we have this idea that yes, it's an indie film, but ultimately the ideology is exploring about how to conform, you could argue. So let's take a look at the opening scene. So for the opening scene, we are looking at recognition in its first instance. Okay, the first shot, I always love to analyse the first shot of film. So here we have Frances and Sophie sort of play fighting in the park. Now, what makes this initial image quite interesting is that Frances likes to say that they're both the same people but with different hair. So in this scene, in these moments, we don't recognize Frances is. We don't know which is which. We don't really. We're not immediately introduced to Frances as an individual. We're introduced to Frances and Sophie together. So we don't recognise her as our protagonist until the final moments of this little montage. This little montage is so significant and important to Frances that she is trying to chase this down throughout the rest of the film. The play fighting, the like some of the things that they talk about, like like your socks, and so a lot of this sort of like running through the streets. These are all things that she tries to recreate kind of with other people or on her own as the film goes on. She never really captures this moment again. This is Frances's perfect day, and she doesn't really get bittersweet. She doesn't really get this perfect moment again. A few other things to mention at the top here. We have a black and white cinematography, which would be a classic indicator of sort of like a French New Wave aesthetic. And also there is no establishing shot. In a mainstream Hollywood film, using classicism, you'd have a helicopter shot of the city, maybe then going into a shot and it would and the camera would seek out the protagonist, ultimately ending in a big reveal close-up. We don't get that here. There's no establishing shot, and there's no big image music either at the beginning. It's just them. We just hear the ambient sound, the wild track. So it's already setting out its stall as a non-Hollywood text with its construction. Another thing that sort of like makes it non sort of like Hollywood is that this is a film about platonic female friendships, which are really important and really significant in people's lives, and the breaking down of these friendships and people growing apart can be really, really painful, and we see that through the character of Frances here, and this sort of play fight that they have here is kind of like echoes their relationship. Bit fuzzy. This kind of like this moment here, like the we have Sophie playing and Frances dancing, that goofy kind of like look on her face. This is typically Frances, this kind of like self-aware, but also awkward, endearing, but also irritating. My emotional reaction is a little bit. I have a love-hate relationship with Frances. This idea that there are moments where I just like you can see her heart breaking and it's so sad, and then there's other moments where you just think, oh my god, what is she doing? These moments of awkwardness, and this kind of combines both of these elements of her personality here. I think it's kind of like a bit, oh, she she looks like she's having fun and she's goofing around, but there's an awkwardness about it, and I think it's like this idea of the banjo. It just seems like I think it's dated a little bit. It feels very millennial, doesn't it? This kind of like this banjo playing hipster sort of like iconography that we have here. And then we have the soundtrack. It's very childlike, sweet, sort of like banjo music. It's kind of creating this dynamic sound bridge. This isn't really the sound of Sophie playing, it's the soundtrack. So yeah, it's sweet. She gives her money to the buskers at the same time. We can talk about privilege and is this patronizing? It gives us so many layers. This is a character of contrast. This is a charitable character that's coming from privilege, but she doesn't always recognize it. It's a character that is intelligent but does like really dumb things. She's very personable. She's very endearing, and at the same time frustrating. See this code later on when Frances is sort of like running through the city, but she's doing it on her own.
I make a frittata, but it's more of a scramble.
So that the cooking of the eggs is something that she then uses as a tool to try and make friends later. It's very sweet.
Interesting. To praise the work of literature because it is the best way of saying that although it may be given no aesthetic or intellectual admiration.
So the performance here is very naturalistic. The mise en scène is very kind of stark, and what I think is really interesting as well is what the activities that they're both doing. So Sophie is the publisher, Frances is the dancer, but Frances is the one who's doing like the reading, and it's Sophie who is the one who's knitting, being creative, and then working out, looking after her body, while Frances is eating crisps. So their personalities kind of, we can see maybe a slight juxtaposition starting to build already.
I wouldn't eat a domesticated dog. You say that just because it's cute.
So this is where, in terms of spectatorship, we recognise that it is Frances who is the protagonist, because Sophie is now in the shadows at the corner of the frame, and Frances is centralised and illuminated. So she is the hero and her there, Frances. Again, no establishing shot here. We're thrown right into the next scene, and I think the performance is really interesting here. I feel a self-awareness about Greta Gerwig's performance here. I feel in terms of spatiotemporal attachment, we are obviously close to her and with her. We haven't had subjective access yet. We're not alone with her yet. She likes to be surrounded by people, and in the exposition phase, she constantly is. But I kind of sense this knowing look, if you like, between us and her. When this little discussion here about the cat, I can sense this eye roll that she gives. I feel like that is for us, the audience. So in this moment, we are starting to be aligned with her, because he's kind of kind of ridiculous character, we are starting to align with her because she is kind of giving this sort of like to be looked at-ness performance to us, to camera a little bit, I feel here, which creates a bond between us, the audience, and Frances. And a point of view shot, of course, that will absolutely tell us that we're going to be seeing the world through her eyes. Oh, look at the little cat.
That was fine curly hair. There's this house in Westchester.
So what I think is really clever here is how the camera starts to move back. We're starting to create some distance between us and them as the frictions and fractures in their relationships start to unfold. We are stepping out. We are stepping back.
The basement is all Cornish Rexes. It smells awful. Cats.
I'm allergic to cats.
Hypogenetic is a special Francis cake.
Oh, who knew?
This one's the runt, which is cheaper, but I think it's the best one anyway. Figure one runt and one regular. I put $100 down payment on cat. Well, 80 for the runt and 100 for the other one.
Why is it one cat?
A cat needs a buddy. If you get one cat, you need to get two cats.
I'll give you $200 to get no cats. So who will take care of them if you go away?
I thought we could get her.
And move them back and forth between our apartments?
No, I thought maybe you could move in with me.
That long take accentuates that sense of awkwardness in the scene.
Wow.
Do you want to move in with me?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes. I mean, I do have this other thing.
What other thing?
Well, I don't know. I promised Sophie I'd stay through the lease. She'll probably want to renew it. Is that bad?
It is bad, Frances, by the way. She goes on to do an incredibly bad job of breaking up. The reasons that she gives us, incredibly childlike. She wants to stay with her friend, and she keeps repeating this, I feel bad, which makes me, this is my personal response, my personal self go, yeah, you are, you don't have this like emotional like maturity, but it is an incredibly realistic like character trait within people, this inability to make decisions. She does appear to be kind of like aimless in some ways, a little bit like Nana in Viva Savie. In Hollywood films, we're very used to having characters that are driven, they have a mission, a goal, they have a journey, whereas in this indie film we have our protagonist who is full of contradictions and ambiguous as well. She doesn't always mean what she says, she doesn't always do as she says she's gonna, and it creates a very complex character.
I'm sorry. I feel bad.
Can't you find someone else?
Yeah, but it's fun.
Uh-huh.
I want to move in with you.
Okay.
I feel bad.
Don't feel bad. Forget it.
No. What?
Nothing.
You're mad.
I'm not mad. I'm
I feel bad.
Stop feeling bad. Francis, I asked you to move in with me. You said no.
I can't.
You can. You don't want to.
He's right. She doesn't want to move in with him, and she's doing a really like a really awkward and bad job of like breaking up. It is what she wants to do, but she wants to kind of like project it onto him, so it's kind of like his decision, so she doesn't have to make the decision, is what I believe.
Who is it?
It's okay. I don't have to.
Who is it?
It's Sophie. I'll talk later.
Just pick up the phone.
Are you sure?
Answer it.
Yo, girl, what's up? Hey, where are you?
So we can see that the relationship that she has with Sophie is like Sophie is her person, and this is when she lights up. Sophie isn't going to sort of like demand that this kind of conversation that she's having with him. So Sophie is the sunshine. Sophie brings out this this happy side in her, and that thing she does when she picks up the phone, it breaks the tension of the scene. It's fun. It's funny.
I can't come. Are you drunk? I you. Dumpling House. I can't really talk right now. Okay. I love you. Okay. I love you.
So now they are both in kind of long shot. We see a lot of distance now between the two of them within the proxemics of this scene.
She's with these guys, Benji and Lev, at a party in Chinatown. Drunk.
I don't know.
Low
It's not
angle,
working.
looking up at him, so he has the sense of
sorry.
power at the
Me
moment.
too.
Maybe. No, never mind.
What?
I want to pay for that.
I'm not gonna take money from you, but I am going to get the cats anyway.
But then you're going to be a single guy with 2 cats.
Why would I be single?
With 2 cats.
No, I know. I mean, why would I be single?
I don't know. I thought you said that this isn't working. I mean, if we don't move in together. If we can't move in together.
We can move in together.
I don't know. I don't know that I believe anything that I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
So this is one of the things about her. She is frustrating, but also honest. She says, I don't know if I believe anything that I'm saying. So it's kind of like she frustrates us and then she will be kind of like endearing. And, you know, he is like, there's a line that I'm going to say, there's a line that he delivers right at the end of the scene that helps us to decide to align with Francis.
This hasn't been great for a while.
This hasn't been great.
So they're in, they're not in a 2-shot anymore. They're now completely separated.
Where are you?
Home, I guess. I'm really tired. I'm always so tired.
Let's move in.
Let's move in together. So it's an interesting start to the film. Frances already, she is not our conventional Hollywood hero. We can already see that these themes of female friendship are not conventionally what we would see in a Hollywood film. The indie credentials of this film are immediately apparent, and I like that there's the character of Frances exists. I like that she's full of contradictions. I like that she says, I'm tired, I'm going to go home, and then she goes straight to a party. I like that kind of like that she isn't always truthful with herself and with other people. That feels really real. But also it does mean that I don't know if I like her, but is that an overrated quality? Why do our characters have to be likable, especially when it comes to female characters in film? We often have this discussion about the likability of female characters, but we don't necessarily have when it comes to male characters in film. I think Frances Ha is a really interesting example of that. She's frustrating, she's complex, she's endearing, she is fun, she's funny, and she's intelligent. And I don't think it matters whether we like her or not, because her journey is really engaging in this film. So to recap, in this opening scene, we have a lack of establishing shots, we have the black and white cinematography, we have the use of proxemics to explore the dynamics of a relationship, and we have this idea of like the recognition isn't immediately apparent. The recognition of Frances as our protagonist comes just seconds before the titles, and so we have delayed recognition, and then we have that scene where the breakup scene, and our sort of like alignment goes back and forward between the two of them, and then we have this moment where she goes to the party anyway, which I think is really cool. So that's it. That was just a very quick analysis of the opening scene of Frances Ha Muffins. I hope that you find it valuable. Okay, muffins. Thank you. Bye bye.